I just wanted to share that with you. There is a tremendous amount of beautiful wisdom that is coming forward for us to work with currently. And the primary energy that the guardians wanted to take us on a journey with this particular soul circle is going to be all about who are we as these eternal beings, as these eternal flames. What is ascension mechanics? What are the mechanics of our physicality and our body? Like, what is it that we're really trying to accomplish as we are bringing in these solar codes and working with these frequencies? What are we doing? The primary thing that we are doing on a very deep level is that we are working with ascension cycles. And I want to invite you to even interchange the word ascension cycles with yuga cycles. That truly there is wisdom that is available to us that really shows us that we have been aware of the galactic cycles, the planetary movements, our interchanging energy with the galactic or the great central sun, if you will, the galactic center, the great central sun, the solar rishis, and these cycles that we work with. And through the different Vedic teachings, we see these as the yuga cycles, and that the yuga cycles show us that we are spiraling through space, that we are spiraling through the universe, through these clockwork-like synchronistic motions. There is no question. It's very much, if you know the way the clock works, there's no surprise when it hits 3 o'clock. You realize, oh, well, it hits 3 o'clock every day. And so there isn't a surprise about it. And what this is these yuga cycles show us that as we are moving, that we are directly connected to the light rays that emanate from the great central sun and these actual greater centers. So we have the great central sun, we have the galactic center, the super galactic center, and then we have the great attractor, and then we move even beyond that to the Shapley attractor, that we can actually realize that all of these are also embedded within yet something larger, and even that's embedded within something larger, and that's embedded within something larger. So for all of us here that have been living our life trying to race to an end goal to get all of our memories back and know everything, not going to happen. Let's just let that go. And here's the interesting thing about this. I'm going to invite all of you that have been doing the journey with through the blueprint with me, and all of you that have done research astrologically, specifically with evolutionary astrology or the concept of Pluto. We understand that Pluto holds the base signature within our astrological wheel that shows us our desire. Pluto holds within it the deepest desire that our soul is holding. And within that desire, it's generally buried. It feels like a desire because it's out of reach. It's not accessible. Something is keeping us from fully having it. That is why it's a desire. We want it because we don't have it. And so the invitation I'm going to give each of you to meditate on today is that there is an aspect to each and every one of us that as a soul, there is something we are still desiring. And that is why we are here in this physical incarnation. There is something that we are wanting to either accomplish or that we are wanting to have not happen anymore. Desire kind of comes in two forms, something that we don't have that we want, and something that we do have that we don't want. Kind of where desire lies within our life. And that if we move through these ascension cycles and we truly follow the wisdom teachings start to impart to us that the way to move through the layers. So I'm going to say this in a few different terms. So the way to move, say, through the bardos, the way to move through the lokas, if you want to look at it through the realms or the worlds, the way to move through the dimensions or through the harmonic universes. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. So if we want to move through the 5 different harmonic universes, if we want to move past the arc zones, So I'm gonna bring in this term again. There are things called arc zones, and the arc zones are a is a physical thing. It's made because of the way elements, electricity, plasma, the basic elements of the universe, the way it works, that we can understand that between the dimensions, it's just the way electricity works. So this is where we're coming back into our body. What are we? I'm going to jump ahead to the answer. And the answer is that we are energy. We are this energy in motion, and that we really want to come into an understanding of the function within our atom, or our atom, or our Adam, our Adamic body, right? So now as we start to learn these principles of the atom, we're starting to realize that everything replicates off of the laws of these different physics, and all of the physics between each realm or world changes in dimension to dimension because the elements change. We are in a carbon-based reality, so therefore we exist here in these more of these, what we would call Newtonian laws, if you will. We exist within these laws of physical matter, which exist within the proton, the neutron, the electron, electricity, and magnetism. And that if we were electricians, we would understand different things, like how to work with currents of energy, how to reverse currents of energy. I'm going to say that again. If we were electricians, maybe some of you are, I don't want to, I'm not. But I understand this on just kind of more the quantum level, but please don't ask me to do any wiring in your house. But if we understand the currents of energy, we understand grounding wires. So just for a moment, I'm going to give you guys the concept of obelisks, pylons. So we have crystalline pylons and structures on our planet that have been placed here by the Sirians, by the Alpha Centaurians, by other races who have, what have they done? They have implanted these into the Earth grid to stabilize the energy flow and currents of energy on the planet. And they're massive. These are going to be like the crystalline caverns and chambers that we see, say, in Mexico. And there's, of course, even chambers in Arkansas and all these different places that we can connect to around the planet that hold these pylons of energy. Now, if you look at any of Lisa Renee's work or Ashiana Dean's work, you're going to see something called the APIN. And this is going to reference this system that is in place on many different grid patterns on the planet. Some of them are held in the Eagle grid. Some of them are held in the Dove grid. There's all different types of grids that are held, and each of these grids are actually designed to hold different structures or different blueprint patterns, if you will, or harmonizing frequencies is really what it is they're here to just, they're like transmitters, if you will. They're just holding base tones and frequencies on the planet to hold these blueprints or these signatures, fractalized signatures here within this Earth plane that connect us to other stargates, starports, or other balancings within the energies of our system. Now, the majority of these APIN, which is the Atlantean, oh my gosh, I'm going to totally mess with this now, but this is the Atlantean pylon system, which was hijacked during the Atlantean times. I'm forgetting what I is, but the N is obviously network. So I can post that on the Telegram later. But these APIN systems, basically, just to kind of understand, is that our planet, through many of these yuga cycles of higher advanced consciousness, have worked with this planetary sphere at very advanced levels, really stabilizing it, stabilizing the energy, stabilizing the frequencies on it, right? Well, during the wars, during such things as the Atlantean Wars, during such things as even the Electric Wars, that what this is, the Atlantean Wars were the wars between the factions within the Sirian star system that were wanting to overtake this system. So this was slightly embedded with some of the Orion forces, but it was also a Syrian kind of rebellion that was fighting against a lot of the Orion forces and wanting to rebel against some of the dominant matriarchal systems that were in order here. And a lot of these wars are in place over something called the Sector 9 or the Pesh Metin. And I'm going to go ahead and start sharing some screens because I'm kind of going a little bit all over the place for you guys, but it all, I swear it's all going to tie together. That we can understand from our galactic history that our entire universal template has these energetic streams through it, just as we are electrical beings, just as our planet has its electrical systems within it. We are also connected to all of these streams and channels of energy throughout our 15-dimensional time matrix, or the universal body, throughout the Milky Way. And that many of these highways make it easy and accessible to travel from one sector of the universe to another sector of the universe quite easily. So for advanced star races who are doing trade routes, this is no different than owning or having domination over a harbor here on planet Earth, okay? And I know all of us can understand that because ships are still transporting a majority of our goods across the oceans from country to country. And this is how we do trade routes, even here on this planet. There's galactic trade routes. And whomever owns some of these major highways, many times what they do is, what do? The same as here. They charge a toll to use it, or whomever owns it is either going to allow access, or you're going to have to be in service to them, or you don't get access to it. So Earth, as many of you have probably heard, is a very high commodity location because it is at a nexus point for many intersecting portals or these Stargate systems. Earth is very special because she has more womb capabilities than most other planetary systems. And what this says is that she has the ability to birth a multitude of creations in her body. So I'm going to let you just sink that in for a minute and think about it. What is she birthing on this planet? Trees, birds, bugs, whales, dolphins, people, all kinds of things, right? She has the ability to birth an incredibly diverse amount of creations through her wombs. Many other planets, we can't take the creation that's here and go replicate it on Mars. Mars doesn't have the ability. The moon doesn't have the ability. Many of these other planets don't. So I'm trying to familiarize these terms for you so that it starts to really sink in of what are we doing when we're working with nature and the natural laws that we are connected to, right? So now as we kind of understand that the body templates, to move through dimensions, to move through universal templates, to move from, say, one loka. So again, this is going to be kind of more from the Hindu or the Buddhic perspective of the 7 higher realms and the 7 lower realms. They're called lokas. And these are different worlds that exist at higher dimensions or lower dimensions than us. And as we move through these, that there are bands or arc zones that physically separate them and keep them from mixing together so that they actually have an integrity of holding the structure like an embryo. For each dimension has their own embryonic holding. This is kind of like when you could think of multiverses. There are like these bubbles everywhere. Visualize it any way you choose. I don't think there's a way for us to really actually visualize it because it's so much more massive than we could ever truly perceive. Now, within this, we have something called the Van Allen belt. This is something you can look up. You can actually see it. It's a physical thing. What this is this is one of the arc zones. This is the wall past none. This is the wall of amnesia. When all of us are sitting there going like, oh my gosh, I incarnated into this reality and I lost all my memories and I feel like my memories have been wiped. Van Allen belt. It is a physical thing that our soul moves through as an angelic moving through into this density and into this reality. We move past this physical thing that actually our consciousness loses access to another part of who we are. So we still fully exist within our oversoul perspective, say, but the aspect of us that maybe answered a call, had the desire to come in, to end suffering. Again, remember, desire comes in two forms. It's either something we are desiring because we don't have it, or something that we have or that is happening that we are desiring it for it to not be happening. I'm going to tell you, the majority of us have created the most of our life, the most of our manifestations in our life based on the latter half. Most of us have made or gotten ourselves to this point based on getting away from what we don't want in our life. Well, I don't want to be told what to do anymore, so I'm going to go get my own place. Oh, it just goes on, right? And okay, I've done this, so I'm just going to say this as a full transparency, but I've been in a relationship before and actually gone and like had the thought of everything I didn't like in that relationship and have been like, I want a relationship where none of this is. And then I get into the next relationship and sure, none of that is there, but then there's all these other things that came with it, the polarity, where I was all like, oh, well, I didn't realize not having that meant now having that, because most times we're so focused on getting away from something that we don't see the larger picture. And this is kind of what they're inviting us into right now. So let's kind of go back. What are these yuga cycles? These yuga cycles are basically the ascension cycles where we are spiraling through the cosmos. And as we connect to the solar rays and the solar rishi from the great central sun, that it is the times when we are most in alignment with the rays that our consciousness begins to blossom and bloom and awaken. And I'm not even gonna, well, maybe I'll see if I can put up a picture here. So there are these different yuga cycles that we go through. I don't know if I actually pulled them up. I didn't pull them up. There are these different yuga cycles that we go through, and I'm just going to kind of say them from my memory right now. And that is that we can imagine the Kali Yuga. Most of us are familiar with the Kali Yuga. The Kali Yuga has a signature within it of the time of great darkness. It is the time of just darkness. It is the time of just the least amount of consciousness within humanity. So think about it. This would be the time when, say, it's the winter cycle. So it would be the time when we are furthest away from the radiance of the sun and from the light, right? And so therefore it would be the dark ages, the winter of consciousness. And if we can imagine that this time in the yuga cycle is considered the time of the mental plane. And as we kind of get to look at this energy, let me just see if I can pull up an image here. As we get to look at these different experiences through, and the mental time is when we have nothing else that we can really focus on other than that which is right in front of us. And even though it's the dark ages, the yogis or the ascended masters or the sages, they say that it's actually the least dangerous. And think about this. They say it's the least dangerous because yes, there is tragedies that happen. Yes, there is violence that happens. Yes, it is very unevolved consciously. But you are more than likely going to get killed by a rock, by a stick, by a blunt object, or an animal. Whereas as we start to move, and if you can actually see on here, let me see if I can make this bigger. Yeah, perfect. you can actually see we have just recently moved out of the Kali Yuga cycle, and we are now moving into what they call the Dwapara cycle. And this is what is referred to as electrical energy. So I'm going to just go through these really quick. So it goes material to electrical to mental to truth. Okay. So what it said is that first we understand the material reality. This is the Dark Ages, the Kali Yuga. First we understand the material reality. And now then we start to move as we start to cycle closer to the galactic suns, getting more of the radiance. We actually start to now get intrigued and interested in electricity or energy. And the way that we begin to first harness it is through the material matter, because that's all we know. So what are we using? We're using coal to heat our homes, oil to drive our cars. We're using electricity that is based off of the material world of which we exist. So the majority of everything that we have, even though now we are far more technologically advanced, even than 200 years ago, we are still quite in the beginning stages of even starting to learn this energy. And that as we progress through this, through the next, basically it's 2,400 year cycle, that we will continuously evolve through the electrical stage or through the energy harnessing or the energy development. So this is why we get excited. There's no accident why we're sitting here going like, oh my gosh, medical technology is going to change. Energy sources are going to change, because they are. We're getting into the Pluto and Aquarius time, which is going to be bringing back galactic awarenesses to technologies that we've already had on this planet before, and how to harness natural law energy back into service so that we can have all of our luxuries, but we are not being parasitic and feeding off of another aspect of mother in order to create this energy. Now, as they say, that as we move through this stage, that there is still violence within this stage. Just because we start to learn this technology doesn't mean that we all of a sudden become saintly. We just actually, they say it starts to become more dangerous, because now the consciousness of humanity hasn't quite evolved yet. We have now cool new technologies, but our consciousness isn't quite at a developmental stage yet. So now what we do is we just have bigger weapons and bigger ways to kill each other. This is nuclear things, these are quantum things, and these are biological weaponry and things like this, right? So this is where we began to actually, those that are star seeds, light workers, what do we get? Now we have the ability to utilize these technologies to amplify our voice in order to amplify our circle of prayer, so that we be the energy to help move the 100th monkey into a new way of thinking on this planet. Now, the next cycle that follows is the Treta Yuga. And this is a 36,000 year cycle, and this is the mental age. Now, for those of you that I've ever talked about the Canceri star seed nation, this is actually really powerful. There is actually races within the Canceri star nation that they are like Jedis. They are like these yogis and these martial artists, but their martial arts actually consists of what can you do through your mental projection and your ability to master the mental plane. So this is creation through the mental plane. This is going to be manifesting out of thin air. This is going to be movement with your mind, creation with your mind, mastery with the mind. Now they say that still half of this cycle is still, there is violence. That in half of this cycle, there still is a level to which humanity is still living that service to self and potentially vying for power, authority, or these kinds of energies. But as we're moving up, that it's halfway through, that there is a click or a shift within the consciousness that starts to prepare for the truth age, which is now the spiritualized age, in which we now get to move into a new perspective of completely spiritualized realization again, where all of the way that we think in the now and all of the way that Earth functions in the now would not be. It would be very much like the golden age, like the many of you that remember and have connection to the Venusian families, because the Venusians are actually holding pretty much a yuga cycle ahead of us. They're kind of beyond it, but you know, I just want to put that perspective. They are actually kind of holding this golden Satya Yuga for us in our consciousness so that we keep having that attunement to keep vibrating to. This is why many times you'll hear in many teachings, oh, you need a master, or you need someone to sit with, not because they're looking for people to worship them. That is absolutely not. But what it's saying is that there are individuals that incarnate from time to time who will come in and hold a pillar or a transmitter of energy. And when we get near their frequency, they are holding a vibrational frequency or an emanation from them that allows our DNA and genetics within us to go click, 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 and line things up, and for us to actually feel something. And this is very much akin to sometimes when we see somebody do something, it makes it easier for us to figure out and go like, oh yeah, okay, I can do that. And we can click into that vibration and energy. This is really truly what Venus holds for us within the solar system. So I wanted to kind of show this because what is kind of said through these yuga cycles is that truly, as it gets more advanced, even up into the mental ages, that this is where we truly work with kind of the energies, where look at some of the Hindu mythology of the Vimanas, of the nuclear tragedies that have happened. You can see it archaeologically within the layers of the earth, places where whole systems, you could tell a huge plasma wave or something went off. Some massive technology went off there that destroyed an entire place on the planet. And I'm going to invite you to look at a couple places on the planet, such as the Gobi Desert, such as Australia, and also Iran, Iraq area. If you look at these different areas on the planet, what do you see? You see dry, you see desert, you see no life growing there, when actually in many cycles back, they were lush, they were beautiful, they were the most incredible Stargate places on the planet. But what happened? Wars of power over these Stargates. So for those of you that are doing thank you for all of you that have been signing up on the Kristalla Planetary Gridwork Telegram. Just please give me a little minute as we get this rolling. But this is also, if you wanted to even focus on some of these areas, that what we have the gift and the ability to do is be that attunement to these places that are void of love. You know, and why are they still so heavily targeted today? Look at how viciously Australia was attacked through this last few years. And we get to see that it's because they're very important chakra centers and energy centers on the planet that are vital to the health and vitality and over who has control over the system. And so when we start to attune our energy to these places, we can begin to truly get to see how we can start to embed the love, embed the light codes back in order to rehabilitate these places, which generally are a little bit more challenging to rehabilitate, because it is kind of like somebody going through radiation or some kind of microwave kind of frequencies. It really frays and distorts the DNAs and the telomeres and things like that within the blueprints of not only the people, but the land. And so it's really a very highly etheric body template restoration that has to be done. We can't necessarily do it right with the physical or the material reality. We have to move up light bodies within the earth template, or move down layers into the second dimensional templates and work with these Melchizedek orders in order to help rehabilitate these areas. But if we try to deal with it directly, it's too distorted, and we need to kind of heal it from either side's in. So now, as we get to kind of continue on this journey, Brisbane. I would believe so, absolutely. And one of the main places is let me see if I can look it up. It's the Uluru Rock in Australia. I just want to show you guys pictures of it. This is one of the most sacred spaces there, but look at how devastated the land is. Underneath there is one of the core chakras of the earth. This could be even considered like the root or the womb chakra of the earth. And it is just an annihilated landscape around there. And so as we heal and share our love with these places, we get to begin to help. So we can move through these. So is our work in how to upgrade and realign our energy so we can move through these arc points past the veil realm. Yes, yes, absolutely. So now as we get to look at this, this is how we are the nodes. We are the conduits. Because when we can attune to it, we're like the little packet of energy that now has the ability to get behind the firewall, behind the veil. And so within the Yuga cycles, basically what we are doing, this is our ability to tap back into the Christ star or the Christ star. So that crystal river that we did at the very beginning. And as we are doing this, what is happening, our atoms, we're talking about the atoms, that we are electrical, we are able to transfigure into eternal life light atoms. So we start to do the transfiguration right within ourselves. And as we do that, we will be able to eventually begin to, through these Yuga cycles, make our way back to being an Adeshi adept, or what was referred to as an ascended master within this. But that truly the consciousness comes from the center point. So the more that we attune to the sun, to the solar rays, the more that we attune to the radiation that is coming from these solar rishis, the more that it is activating dormant DNA. We click, we tick, we come online. We allow ourselves to just let the waves of emotion move through us so that it doesn't distort us in any way. And as this happens, we now begin to become exactly the energy that is needed to kind of help anchor and embed into the earth the templates that it needs in order to remember its restoration. So reactivating, if we will. Now, that as we get to look at this, this is something interesting that I wanted to kind of tie into. There's a few different things. I do want to tie in this one thing. We did work with the Crystalla. I did want to just point out on the Ascension Glossary, if you look up the 7 archangels, in fact, if you just type in the word 7, a whole lot of different pages pop up in there. We have the 7 sisters. So it's the 7 stars of the Pleiades, which we know we are connected to, the 7 solar rishi suns. We have these 7 archangels. Each of these 7 archangels attune to each of these different planetary systems here within our solar system, as well as to days of the week. And this is something I'm just diving into, but that there is even influence that comes to us just from these mini cycles that we go through every 7 days as we go through our week. And as we look at that, we can understand that the moon kind of moves on these 7-day cycles, because it's usually around every 28 days, or 4 cycles of these 7-day cycles, or it's every 14 days, it'll go from new moon to full moon, etc. That we are also still working within these lunar cycles, or these emotional or subconscious cycles. So there's that within there. I also wanted to say, if you wanted to look up on the Ascension Glossary, it's the Ka Ra Ya Sa Ta Allah, and she goes into a beautiful explanation of it. Again, how this is a frequency tone of geometry that is encoded for the silicate matrix of our DNA. That we are operating within a carbon-based, or a 5, or a phi, PHI, phi ratio system. And that is the mechanics or the geometry within the system. But as we move up into the higher dimensionals or higher worlds or higher lokas, if you will, that template changes. We move out of 5. But 5 is significant. We have 5 fingers. We have 5 senses. We have all these different things that radiate with the energy of 5 within this reality. And as you get to see this, that as we start to embed into us the Kristalla, what we're starting to embed is in the 7 signature, which also embeds into the 12, which then embeds into the 15-dimensional time matrix. So the 12 tree grid of life, and so on and so forth. I could go on quite a while with the number 12. And so within this, again, each of the times that we tone and we move through these energies and currents through our body, that we do mantras, that again, the mental plane system. So if we were to look at it, when we are in the Trita Yuga, the mental plane, this is the mastery level of when many of the mantras, the Gaia mantra, the Om, all of these different mantras that people recite now, most of these were created in the Trita Yuga because they are actual codes, they are keys, they are vibrational tones, signatures, and recipes, if you will, for maintaining frequencies. And therefore, they help us maintain these frequencies through the darker ages. So this is where these ideas of mantras, sound tones, toning, light language, and all of these come from. And that as we get to embrace these energies, that it's really our gift now to start to go like, oh, okay, maybe there is validity in sitting still, doing breath work, maybe doing Om, maybe starting to tone, maybe even taking in some of that energy, like when Emily did her talk about how the most healing sound that any of us have is our own voice. So this is knowledge that truly comes from the Trita Yuga cycle. And that it's very interesting if you ever are drawn, and I'm sure, and this is the information that I'm sure many of you know much more than I do. I've just been called to come and really dive into it. And that is going to be the energy of the holy, there's a book called The Holy Science by Sri Yuk, I always say his name wrong, Yuksbar. I can't even. I was practicing it too. Yukswar Giri, Sri Yukswar Giri. He is part of the lineage of the Babaji. And then, of course, we have Yogananda, who came to share a lot of the information with the West, I think in the 20s. But this is a really incredible book that goes into the details of the Yuga cycles, but it's written in such an encrypted way that you have to kind of do a lot of math to get the energy out of it. So if you just go to those images, you can really see that vibration within there. But that a lot of the wisdom that this is was to help work with some of the teachings that were embedded within the Bhagavad Gita, that were embedded within some of these other wisdom teachings. And that some of these wisdoms that were kind of counted within here is actually wisdoms that came from times like the Trita Yugas. So there are knowledges embedded within our consciousness that actually comes from these mental planes, from these higher consciousness timelines. And these are the wisdom teachings. So for all of you that feel that Syrian energy or that Andromedan energy or that Lyran energy that it pulses you, or probably listen to me yapping over here, trying to share the wisdom, right? For all of us that want to bring these wisdom teachings back to the earth, we have connections to these. So I kind of giggle because this isn't something I was initially drawn to. But every time the guides bring me back to it, I realize I'm pretty much saying the exact same thing that is written in these. And I'm sitting there going like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. It's written right there. Well, what is this also in alignment to? Sekhmet. So there's an incredible book out there. Let me see if I can get to the top of this for you. Oh. There's an incredible book out there. It's Sekhmet and the 5 Bodies. It's about the psycho-spiritual exercises of the 5th way by Robert Masters. It's incredible. It's another incredible book about working with Sekhmet. Now, who is Sekhmet again? We did a whole talk on her one of the last times. Sekhmet is going to be that energy of Isis, of Hathors, of Mother Mary. This is going to be the wisdom teachings that have come from the Pleiades, that have come from Ursa Major, that has come from the goddess lineage lines and the matriarchal systems and the natural law and wisdom teachings of divine law. So as we get to kind of embrace within this energy, you're going to see that within this book, you know, obviously Robert Masters probably was quite adept within some of the holy sciences, but it matches quite beautifully when you look at the vibrational energies of what are the 5 electricities, what are the 5 bodies, what are the 5 energies. And so what they talk about within some of these is that there are the 5 matters or the 5 energies that we work with, and they are the solid, the liquid, the fire, the gaseous, and then the ethereal. And these are both within both of these documents. If you were to read them, they're both embedded within there. But the interesting thing within here is that one of the things within actually it's a different book. I'm going to just show one more book over here that I've been guided to pick back up. And this is something called Mindfulness with Breath, with Breathing. And this is basically, it was written, transcribed off of some teachings from a Tibetan Buddhist, but it is all based on the teachings of Buddha, basically. And these are all the energies of what is influencing us within this reality. And that the primary thing for us to be aware of is that we are embedded within a reality where the primary energies we want to connect to are going to be in these base 5 or this phi ratio. And that within this is also connected to our 5 senses. When we start to connect to these energies of the 5, and our 5 senses, there's basically like the 5 major organs within the body, so on and so forth. And as we connect with these, that each of these are ways in which we are having receptors or feeling into our reality, feeling, sensing, and knowing. And so I wanted to actually read something from this Mindfulness with Breathing for you. Because it said something that just went poof and really kind of tapped into my awareness. And it says that there are 3 main points to realize regarding the Vedana, which is actually the idea of feeling. And that is the first to understand that Vedanas or feelings actually cause feelings in the mind, and that the mind does feel. Second, know now how the Vedana conditions the Sita, or which is considered the mind or the mind-heart. They stir up thoughts, memories, words, and actions. Know this concocting of the mind. Third, discover that we can control the mind by controlling Vedana, by controlling feelings. This is going to tie us back to our Pluto and our ultimate desire. In the same way that the flesh body is controlled by the regulation of the breath, we can then be able to master the mind by correctly mastering the feelings which condition it. These 3 things make up the secrets of the Vedana. That it's important to understand the feelings themselves. 2, know the things that condition the feelings. And 3, then know how to control these things that condition the feelings, which is the same as controlling the feelings themselves. Now it goes on to say that everything in this reality is based on feelings, and that feelings are the ultimate thing that initiates our desires. And so therefore it is our feelings that then embed thoughts. Now, I like number 2. Know the things that are conditioning our feelings. And I'm going to take us into a really gross topic. Most of our feelings that are initiated in our body are cravings. cravings for something. And we think we're the ones that are craving that piece of cheesecake, that donut. It's generally parasites, bacteria, candida. It's something that is hosting inside of us that is now controlling our feelings and then creates our desire that then moves us into action and creates the restlessness of our mind. And so this is just a perspective for us to really start to realize it's like they're saying that everything, it doesn't matter what it is, and it doesn't matter what form you're taking, that everything has a level of feeling to it. And that feeling is the most powerful energy that motivates within this dimension and within this reality. And that part of the practice is about being still and being observant of the feeling. And so this is going to be from all of these different perspectives comes back to this one thought, and that is that in order to truly evolve consciously, one must actually slow down and go inward and learn your five. Learn your elements, become one with what is inside of you. That truly through breath work, through meditation, through maybe different other practices, that we get to slow down and move inward. And I know a lot of you are actually do yoga and do beautiful practices like this, which bring you into absolute oneness and mindfulness with the body. That is why yoga is considered not an exercise, it's a spiritual practice, because it's about going back into oneself with mindfulness to now, what are we being asked to do? Become one with our elements, become one with our electrons, our protons, our neutrons, become one with the electricity that moves you. So part of this is what they say is be mindful of what moves the breath, what makes your heart beat. Get to know yourself from that subtle place, and then you will know the all. And that as we get within this, that as we begin to master our feelings, we begin to overcome. This is Socrates' teachings. These are Plato's teachings. These are every star seed's teachings that have ever come. What do? We want to first overcome the base desires of the body in order to purify and cleanse ourselves, in order to become one with the virtues that will allow us through the gate back to God, which is the light, which is the sun, which is the source. So now this takes us back to why. Why is this so important? Because we are electrical beings. We are conduits within this reality. And part of what we're doing is we're taking the new solar rishi codes that are coming in, we're allowing them to embed into our DNA to accelerate the spin, which begins to transmute and transform. Now, I'm not a scientist. I don't understand a lot of this, but this is just basic science. And this is the just turning one element into another. And that's why you can take coal and through tons of pressure, it turns into a diamond. It's just physics. It's just physics that's happening in our body. And what we're doing is we're transmuting the carbon or the coal into what? Our double diamond heart, our double diamond shield, our crystalline or crystalla body. We are turning ourselves from carbon through this pressure and through increasing our star fire, accelerating our spin to match the solar rishi spins, and as it transmutes, we actually physically begin to change our vibration to make it through these stargates. Now, these stargates many times are held between things like pylons or like obelisks, and they are aflame. And so it's kind of been noted that there's a lot of ways in which our history and our stories have been told to us where an angelic has the DNA that matches the key code to get into the flame. These are the halls of Amenti, matching the blue flame. These are going to be, even when in the Bible, when it talked about Daniel, I think he had Daniel and a few of his friends that they were standing in the furnace. and it didn't burn them. That was a portal. It wasn't an actual fire that they were standing in. And what they were doing is, what are they been trying to do for millennia of time? What do? They abduct us, they take us, they force breed us. What are they trying to do? They're trying to breed our genetics into their genetics so that they can get through that Stargate. But if they don't have the right genetics at the right velocity and spin and integrity with the blueprint, what do? You burn up. Bottom line, it's just physics. You have to match the frequency of the Stargate, or else you don't even know what's there, or you actually will burn up through it. And so this is what we're doing, is we're accelerating ourselves in order to burn off all of the karma, all of the miasma. This is truly what the Kundalini energy does for us. It's a fire, it's a purification energy that's burning off all of the inorganic and all that it truly doesn't belong to us, so that we can actually be in a more pure state of holding the divine crystalline river through us. And as we hold this divine river, what are we doing? We're getting the ability to now calm the desire. And this, again, this is an invitation for you to meditate on this whole idea with Pluto. I do believe that Pluto truly holds our energy of what is even got is here. And that there is a great phrase that some of them say, which is that, you know, if this world was so terrible, why do so many of these very enlightened beings come here? Why are we here? Why have we continued to come back here? And so it's our ignorance, it's our forgetfulness, it's that Van Allen belt amnesia that has allowed us to just be embedded within, we believe what we see. That's the material realm. That's the Kali Yuga cycle. And we've barely come out of it. We're barely getting into this idea of like, I don't know why my phone works. It's invisible signals in the sky, but I know it works. So at least we're getting to the place where we are believing the unseen. But we are still at a place where many doubt their spiritual connections, their spiritual guidance, their spiritual purpose within this lifetime. And so part of our gift is that we can look at our Pluto and really see what is it that has maybe kept us in incarnational cycles, or maybe what was the initial, or where are we at in this current moment? Because I truly feel our Pluto in our chart gives us the biggest key for how to release ourselves from desire. And the true kind of, when you look at it from the yogic perspective or the Buddhic perspective or many of these teachings, that truly the end of suffering is the end of desire. And that we can realize that most times we are so caught in these cycles of desire through these feelings that go out of whack, that we need something, we want something, we're anxious for something. We're still in a lot of ways like little kids waiting for Christmas Day to get here so we can open our presents. And then 2 days later, who cares? I'm done with it. And if we can realize that that is the cycle of our feelings and emotions, we will get to a place where we start to appease the desire, so the desire isn't running our life, but we can begin to feel the natural flow of the cosmos and realize that we are on this spiral, and that we have a great gift that we can be, and that it's important for us to incarnate on these cycles, because light has to stay alive through these cycles, or else it gets inverted into these black holes. And so it's important for us to be here for whatever purpose that we are. Our greatest purpose is truly to connect to joy, to bliss, to the high vibrations, happiness, to the natural law. So my invitation to all of you is to go out, enjoy the beautiful day, enjoy the angels when they come through the sky. Know that whenever there is anything that wants to block our view in the sky or cloud our sky, watch. It doesn't take but maybe 15 minutes, and before you know it, the sky is full of the sylphs, the angels, everywhere, purifying and transforming the sky. For those of you that are taking photographs of the elementals, the fairies, the angelics, that this is our way to keep this in our memory, that this is what we want to do. Let's go out, let's connect, fall in love with Mother Earth. Go back into yourself. From within you, you will find all the keys. There's nothing outside of you. So therefore, desire truly is an illusion. It's motivating. It's got us to where we are. But it's really only necessary at certain phases of our evolution. And when we transcend that because we become more spiritual adults, we don't need it to drive our life in order for us to live the integrity life that we are in alignment with. So with so much love, you guys, I invite you to just be in the luminosity, be in the beauty, be with Mother Earth, be with the natural world. Find the love in everything and the challenges that are around us. That it isn't our job to get into them or even have to fix them. Remember, most times our greatest gift is to be the neutral, compassionate witness. And that what lives within you is that ferocity of Sekhmet that says when we need to take action, we can. And we can be fierce and we can stand up for divine law and we can protect Mother Earth in the way, but we don't do it from emotions. We don't do it from these feelings. We don't do it from something that feels angry or as though it has something that it needs to venerate, but we are doing it from this divine energy. So there is a huge aspect of us right now that is even healing a lot of the distortions of the goddess energy in which we've kind of whoopsie, used our power a little bit the wrong way. We bit a few heads off along the way in history, and we're also balancing that. So we are balancing not only the masculine energy upon the planet and bringing that back into a softness so that it can be the protective holding energy, that it can be the movement energy, but we are also needing to balance the divine feminine energy, the container, which has also gone out of balance. And so as we heal both within ourselves, we do this through love, through bliss, through joy, through coming into a centeredness within yourself. So let yourself just flow through whatever is coming up for you, that there is so much that is going to continuously unfold. But the more that we release the desire for something to hurry up and happen and change, the better it's going to be for us to be in the state of peace, to realize we're in a spiral. There's nothing to hurry back to. So let's love right where we are. I adore you guys so much. I'm so grateful that I got to share this time with you. Oh, one last announcement. Check your emails. So for all of you that are here in the Soul Circle, please let me know if you're not. Every once in a while I hear from one of you that you're not getting the emails, and I have you in there. So I want to make sure if you're not getting the emails, last Thursday I did not send anything out. I was out of town and out of service, so I didn't really have an ability to do that. But generally I will always send one out at least a day or the morning before a session. And also, I will always send out if there's other special things coming up. So I did recently send out another email that has information on the part 3 of the Journey Through Your Blueprint is going to be starting on the 8th. And I have that available if anybody is interested. It doesn't matter if you have or haven't taken any of the prior ones. You can just jump right in and we can play with this information. I'm also doing a transit. It's just a one-day workshop where we're going to go over the powerful transits. So you, so many of you already have the link for that. So if you are able to join, I'd be so happy to have you join with that. And that's just going to give information on how to look at transits in your chart and how to work with that energy. And aside from that, I am starting a new thing that I will be doing once a month, and it'll be a free event that we'll have a Zoom link for it. And I'm actually going to just put the Zoom link, I think, in the Soul Speak Circle members page, or I'll just email it out to the group, because it's just something I would be so grateful if you would join me with. And it'll be the energy forecast for the next astrological sign. So this one will be May 20th. That will lead us into the energy of Gemini, where we get to really kind of play with energies coming up. What can we work with? What might be good, powerful days to do meditations or energy work with the land, or connect with different guides, so on and so forth. So with so much love, that is all available there. And I just got one request to share the name of the book I was holding. It's called Mindfulness with Breathing. And oh gosh, Buddha Dasa, Bhikkhu, I think is the name of the person that wrote it. It's Mindfulness with Breathing. It's this cute little book. I got it so long ago that I kind of found it in a used book place, and just it resonated for me. And it's just a transcription of some workshop that was given in Thailand quite a while ago. And when it was originally sold, I think it was for $1.50. So I think that's really fun. I'm like, oh, I remember those days when you could find little treasures like that. Much love to all of you. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful Sunday, and hopefully wherever you are, there might be some sunshine to enjoy. Go share some love with the solar rishis. I love you guys so much. Thank you. Oh, back at you.